Hello, I'm Ellen Bintz, coming today from Wheaton, Illinois, in the USA. Welcome to Impact, a podcast about how we can each bring about real change in the world and getting practical in making that happen.
And hello, I'm Clive Johnson, coming today from Leigh-on-Sea in the UK. A special welcome if you're listening for the first time, and a big thank you to our new subscribers. Each week we look at one aspect of how we can connect our hearts to offer healing for others with our collective intention, prayers, and meditation, and go behind the headlines of a critical happening in our world that needs our attention right now.
In today's episode, we take one of these regular deep dives to more fully understand and tune in with something many of us may know only a little about, and see where we might hone in with our prayers and intentions. And as we record, it's September 10th, 2025.
I was thinking actually of this date. Well, I guess it's tomorrow will be the anniversary, won't it, of 9/11?
Yes.
Next year, 25 years.
I can't believe it.
I know. That's extraordinary, isn't it?
I was talking with some friends yesterday about how we used to compare time to before 9/11 and after 9/11. And now we compare time to before COVID and after COVID.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Both major turning points, though.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. And the ramifications still being felt. So this week, we're very used to giving attention. I'm thinking then, actually, with that 25-year anniversary, it wasn't long after that, was it, that you started Global Healing Response with Katrina?
No, it wasn't. No, that really was the impetus for me to start it, but I didn't actually implement it until 2005.
Yeah. And as you kind of realize, not long, well, I guess a little while into that, that, earthquakes and environmental disasters occurring very regularly. Often there were going to be some common needs. So actually, it's almost every month, certainly, if not every week, that we're hearing them. And that's very much the case with what's been going on recently. However, whenever these events occur, whatever their severity, they always come as a shock. At times, we've been amazed at the miracles that have occurred. We mentioned recently the pace of recovery following Hurricane Milton in Florida last year, and recently the remarkable mass saving of human lives to be really grateful for following that massive earthquake off of Kamchatka. Yet when natural disasters occur in areas of the world where there is oppression, conflict, and poverty, the effects are perhaps even more dire than most, or often more dire than most. These are countries where international aid is often in short supply or indeed denied access. So it is that when heavy rain swept through Gaza, washing away thousands of tents that desperate people now call their temporary homes, very few workers have been able to reach the hundreds of thousands affected. And in the past 2 weeks, 2 such disasters have occurred in trouble spots that are not strangers to this podcast. A landslide in Afghanistan and an earthquake ravaging a remote part of Darfur in Sudan. This week, we take stock of what happened and where our prayers and intentions may be most needed now, as we often do, a little time after the event actually occurred. In this case, approaching 2 weeks after these events first struck.
So what do we know about the earthquake that occurred in Afghanistan last week? A massive magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck eastern Afghanistan on August 31st, triggering landslides in the mountainous provinces of Kunar and Nangarhar. Most reports indicate that the event was one of the deadliest recent disasters in the country, with huge devastation also being caused by the quake. The scale of destruction was worsened by the earthquake's shallow depth, about 8 kilometers or around 5 miles, while the likelihood of further aftershocks continue. Entire mountain slopes collapsed, burying villages beneath tons of rock and debris. Bearing in mind that most people in the area live in wood and mud brick homes built along steep river valleys, many homes were quickly destroyed or severely damaged, with those sheltering within having little chance of avoiding being crushed and buried. At least 2,200 people have been confirmed dead, with thousands injured and many more displaced. Many roads and access routes to the affected villages have been blocked by the landslides, significantly hampering rescue and relief efforts.
And what's known about the landslide in Darfur? The earthquake in Darfur, also on August 31st, was triggered by heavy rain in the volcanic Mara Mountains, which led to a massive landslide that obliterated the remote village of Tarasin. This too has been reported as being one of the most devastating natural disasters in Sudan's recent history. Estimates suggest that more than 1,000 people have been killed as of yesterday when we looked into this, with some statements from rescue organizations indicating that every resident of the village may have perished, save for one known survivor who is in a coma. The actual death toll is likely higher, as many bodies remain trapped under debris or were swept away by floodwaters. It's thought that any survivors in the wider region may still be without shelter, food, and medical care. According to the UN and Sudanese authorities, at least 370 bodies have been recovered by civilians and local rescue groups so far, with many still buried under rocks or swept away by floodwaters. The area, which served as a refuge for people fleeing from Sudan's ongoing brutal civil conflict, famine, and outbreaks of disease, is characterized by its steep terrain, making access and rescue operations extremely difficult.
Oh, my word. Just horrible.
Yes. It's just almost the worst scenario you can imagine.
Oh,
everything happening. Famine,
yeah.
war, heavy rain.
Escape to find an earthquake.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So, what assistance is most needed to help the victims of these disasters? As of the time just ahead of this recording, several areas in eastern Afghanistan remained inaccessible to rescue teams, complicated by the remoteness of the terrain and blocked access routes due to the rockfall destroying essential roads and paths. Some settlements remain entirely unreachable. This includes rural villages furthest from tarmac roads, which have lost all communications. In Ghaziabad district in the north of Kunar province and elsewhere, teams have had to abandon vehicles and trekking multiple hours on foot to access affected communities. And several villages in this area and surrounding valleys have still not been reached by any rescue operation, not even by Taliban-operated helicopters, due to the high mountains and frequently poor weather. However, the UN Humanitarian Air Service has scheduled additional flights between Kabul and Jalalabad. Reaching these isolated communities remains a top priority for humanitarian response, with urgent needs for road clearing operations and expanded air and foot-based relief missions. In a rare appeal outside its borders, the Taliban has stressed the urgent needs for shelter, food, and medical help. Many countries and international organizations have pledged emergency assistance, including the UK, China, India, Switzerland, and the UN. Thousands of local volunteers are also walking into inaccessible areas with water and food.
It's just impossible to imagine, isn't it, getting to these mountainous areas?
Right.
And the problems with getting aircraft in very hazardous conditions, and I imagine a lot of fog and low cloud and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite surprised. I read in one report, and I don't know if this is true or verified, that the Taliban had something like 100 helicopters. It amazed me. They have quite such a force, really. The trained force as well. It's not the image I have of the Taliban.
Right. And I don't even hearing the Taliban asking for urgent needs just seems ironic to me.
It does.
Just because of what I hear in the U.S. about the Taliban.
It does. It's, we do wonder if there's possibly another agenda there, don't we? But seemingly that's what's being reported. Tents, tarpaulins, and blankets are urgently needed as thousands of people have lost homes and are exposed to severe cold and continuing heavy rain. Hot meals, food parcels, bottled water, and hygiene kits are being rapidly distributed, with water access sometimes compromised by debris and also the death of livestock. Providing medical care is being hampered by damaged clinics, with reports of medics needing to treat patients outdoors under trees. Urgent needs include trauma kits, medicines, mobile clinics, and additional medical personnel. Body retrieval and safe disposal are also critical in order to prevent disease spreading. And phone and radio communication, of course, the networks there often remain down, unavailable in many places. Similarly, in Darfur, the most urgently needed items include emergency medical care and supplies to treat injuries. An immediate need for food rations and nutrition is essential to sustain survivors. Tents, blankets, and other non-food essential household items for those whose homes have been destroyed, and safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, and hygiene supplies. As always, when such disasters occur, and given the scale of trauma and loss, mental health, psychological, and support assistance is needed for survivors, especially for children and vulnerable groups. Meanwhile, search, rescue, and recovery teams need support to continue recovering bodies and searching for any survivors. International and local humanitarian organizations are mobilizing resources, but emphasize the critical need for more funding and global support. Retrieving and burying bodies is also urgent to prevent further disease breaking out.
As we reported before, the ongoing conflict in Sudan complicates delivery of aid. Even where access is provided to international organizations, it's impossible to ensure safe and unimpeded access for humanitarian workers. Armed groups control or influence many areas of the region, restricting aid workers' movement and sometimes posing direct risk to their safety. Coordination with multiple actors, including the Sudanese government, rebel factions, and local authorities, are creating logistical and political complications for the efficient delivery of aid. And what's more, as in Afghanistan, most villages in the Marhar Mountains of Darfur are only accessible by foot or donkey, and many roads are washed out or blocked by debris from the landslide and flooding. Like, it's not so bad that it's just the disasters happen, but then you have all these political conflicts too.
Yes.
Uh,
And you were mentioning as well that you were reading about the problems that some of the women were having.
Yeah, the women of Afghanistan, because of the Taliban's rules, men can't touch women who are outside of their familial group. And so the women aren't being saved at the same rate as men.
Wow.
And other complications too, because of their beliefs.
Yes. I imagine these places, a lot of the villages will just be accessible by pretty rudimentary mountain paths as well. It's not there's going to be a tarmac road, nice flat road that you can drive along. Yeah. So where might we hone in with our intention and prayers? And as always, this is the point you might like to bookmark to come back to, as we now invite you to join us in sending intention. We're going to mention a number of areas that came to us fairly rapidly in succession, but you might want to pause after each to hold intention in your own way. And initially, just taking a moment to allow yourself to become fully present, really tune in, and to become coherent with the intentions, with the energy to receive loving kindness and to pass on this desire for others. We will that the groups that control the terrains most affected by the earthquake and landslide in Afghanistan and Darfur, as well as access to these areas, will be moved by genuine compassion for the victims of the disasters to grant immediate access to and guarantee the safety of aid workers, supplies, and equipment needed to support search, rescue, recovery, and ongoing medical and humanitarian assistance in these areas.
We ask that those coordinating rescue operations will have wisdom to know where and how to reach those who are most in need of emergency assistance, including guidance to navigate the remote and hostile mountainous terrain in both countries.
We will that those coordinating search and rescue operations will be guided to quickly find and safely recover the dead who remain buried under rocks or who have been swept away by flood waters.
We ask that the many children and families who remain traumatized and in shock following the disasters, and who may be fearing additional collapses and aftershocks, will be comforted in light and be protected from further harm.
We will that psychological support will be provided to assist those coping with both the immediate and the long-term consequences of loss and trauma.
We ask that the international media will continue to highlight the ongoing and continuing need for assistance, and that the UN and other aid organizations will maintain their focus to support the victims of the disasters in the longer term.
And this week, as we remember the unfolding humanitarian disasters in two of the world's most troubled regions, we suggest holding as our main intention, we will that the survivors of the August 31st natural disasters in Afghanistan and Darfur, who have lost loved ones, their homes, livestock, and possessions, will be supported through their grief and given assistance to find shelter and essential provisions for their survival and well-being. Please join us in holding this. And you might also like to take a look at some of the resources available on the Global Healing Response website, as we mentioned earlier, that support spiritual holding in the event of earthquakes and natural disasters. We'll put relevant links in the show notes, along with links to some possible aid organizations you can pledge financial support to for the Darfur and Afghanistan relief appeals, if you feel led to do so.
It's interesting that when that large earthquake off of Russia happened and there were no deaths there, and it was the largest earthquake recorded, we said, there's probably going to be some aftershocks elsewhere, and here we go.
Here
right?
we go. Yeah.
On the same day. Yeah.
And countries which are most vulnerable and which are most remote from having assistance off the radar very often in international media. Yeah. It's, as we said earlier, it's almost the worst possible scenario, isn't it? Imaginable.
Right. So that about wraps it up for this episode. Remember, you can connect with us in the Facebook group and for live intention holding in Clive's daily Insight Timer offerings, and with me in the Labyrinth Activist Network's Zoom calls. Details of how to hook up with these are in our show notes. Look out too for our next special topic episode, which we'll be releasing in the next few days. Thank you for listening and for sharing with us and holding intentions. We look forward to connecting again next time. And in the meantime,
thank you. Go well. Stay safe.
And remember, we're more powerful together.
Impact is presented by Ellen Binns and Clive Johnson and produced by Impact Productions. Our theme music is by Chris Collins and our logo artwork is by Auto Classic. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or your favorite podcast provider. We're a non-commercial podcast dedicated to people of any faith tradition or none who yearn for healing in our troubled world. Please pass on the word so others may join us in making an impact. Thank you for listening.